You know, usually when you think about the concept of power, you expect a certain level of predictability, right?
Right, yeah, like it operates kind of like physics.
Exactly. Like the bigger guy wins the physical fight, or, the person with the most money dictates the rules of the market.
Or the apex predator eats the weaker prey. I mean, it can be a brutal reality, sure, but it's undeniably logical. You can totally map it.
Yeah, you can map it.
And human civilization is essentially built on that map.
Right.
We all collectively agree on the hierarchy,
Hmm.
and we navigate our lives based on these shared, predictable fictions of money and authority.
But then you stumble into a narrative where that entire map is it's thrown straight into an industrial shredder.
Totally shredded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A world where the tough guy mobster suddenly realizes he is no longer the apex predator, and the thing hunting him down through the dark city streets isn't the police, and it isn't some rival gang.
No, the ultimate threat is a brightly colored bird.
Right, a bird. So today you are diving into the wildly unpredictable world of Death Arrives on Colorful Wings. And this is a short story that just weaponizes absolute absurdity to make a really profoundly unsettling point about our own reality.
And to fully appreciate what this story is doing to the reader, you really have to understand where it lives.
Right, the context is huge here.
Exactly. It's part of a highly unique, multifaceted book titled The River of Remembrance. And that's by Ulder Ibn Biju.
And it's not just a normal book.
No, not at all. This isn't your standard fiction anthology.
Wow.
It is this massive, eclectic amalgamation of short stories, deeply philosophical essays, and even detailed AI architectures.
Which is such a wild mix.
It really is. And what's really fascinating is that the author actually accompanies these texts with their own direct video elements. Like the entire project is designed to challenge how we consume information and narratives.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the specific premise of Death Arrives on Colorful Wings is just a brilliant structural bait and switch.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the story doesn't start weird. It starts off feeling like a hyper-masculine, agonizingly grounded, gritty crime thriller about cruel debt collectors.
Right. It feels very noir.
Yeah, exactly. And then, without any warning, it just snaps into this surreal avian horror fever dream.
It really does pull the rug out from under you. But the brilliance of the story is that it's not just being weird for the sake of comedy,
No, definitely not.
It is fundamentally dissecting that illusion of power we talked about. It's asking a very specific question, like, what happens to our human hierarchies when the fundamental rules of the universe suddenly stop applying?
So let's establish those human hierarchies first. We get introduced to our so-called predators in a miserable, unheated fifth-floor apartment.
It's a very bleak setting.
Yeah, the author describes the air as smelling like broken dreams, which paints a pretty vivid picture. And our main characters are these two debt collectors. There's William Bonney, who insists on going by the kid,
Right, of course.
and his partner Jesus James, who goes by Jesse.
And you have to notice the names immediately, right?
Right.
They are literally naming themselves after legendary outlaws, Billy the Kid and Jesse James.
Yeah, it's totally a performance of toughness.
It is. Yeah.
And their performance is incredibly cruel. So Kid is currently in the middle of shaking down this frail, elderly pensioner named Walter Vogelweide. And Kid is just relentlessly mocking Walter's poverty.
It's really hard to read.
It is. He pulls out a gun to terrorize the old man, though the text reveals it's actually just a gas pistol.
Oh.
But Kid takes it a step further. He ransacks the apartment, finds Walter's late wife's costume jewelry, and just steals it.
Just takes it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Kid explicitly states he knows the jewelry is financially worthless. He later literally throws it in a dirty trash can just to prove some twisted point to his partner about demanding respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's performative cruelty.
Yeah.
He's hurting a defenseless old man purely for the ego boost.
But looking at these guys, I have to be honest, they just feel like cartoon villains trying way too hard to be tough. Honestly, they don't seem like a credible threat to anyone who isn't, a defenseless pensioner. It almost feels like exaggerated writing, like they're just caricatures of mobsters. Why would the author make our main antagonist seem so incredibly pathetic?
Well, what's fascinating here is that their pathetic nature is the entire point. I mean, they aren't cosmic threats, no.
Right.
But in this socio-economic backdrop, they don't have to be. They are just the blunt, low-level instruments of a much larger systemic disease.
The real villains.
Exactly. Kid and Jesse work for a slumlord named Mr. Scrooge. a man who is actively profiting off a massive housing shortage.
So they are bottom feeders in a much bigger pond.
Exactly. When Kid meets up with Jesse later at a parking lot, Jesse actually boasts about his own recent quote-unquote heroic collection effort.
Oh, this part is brutal.
It is. He casually recounts dropping a disabled man, along with the man's wheelchair, off a 20th floor balcony over a debt of 50 cents.
A 50-cent debt. That is just staggering, and the system just lets that happen.
Well, yeah, the police just wrote it off as a strange accident.
Right.
And that is the crucial mechanism the author is setting up here.
Okay, how so?
Well, this isn't just about two bad guys. It establishes a baseline of unpunished, systemic corruption. The housing system is rigged, the police are deliberately looking the other way, and the slumlords are getting richer off human desperation.
Which creates an environment where thugs like Kid and Jesse mistake their immunity from the law for actual, genuine strength.
Precisely.
They think they are invincible because the referee has been bought off, not because they are actually powerful.
Exactly.
Right.
The author is meticulously showing us that human justice has completely failed. The ecosystem is entirely rotten. And logically, a completely broken system cannot fix itself using its own rules.
Right.
That systemic cruelty creates a massive moral vacuum.
And into that vacuum steps something that completely ignores human rules. Which brings us back to that miserable apartment right in the middle of Kid bullying Walter.
This is where it gets crazy.
Yeah. So Kid notices that Walter has a pet parrot in a cage. But the description is wild. It has this dark plumage that seems to capture shadow itself and these piercing emerald green eyes.
Very ominous.
Yeah. And Kid, being the bully he is, decides he's just going to kill the bird to torture Walter further.
Just a classic display of asserting physical dominance over a weaker creature.
Except the bird doesn't flinch. When Kid approaches, he is inexplicably paralyzed just by making eye contact with the bird.
He literally cannot move.
He physically cannot move. The bird lets out this demonic laugh, flies right out the window, and leaves Kid frozen in absolute terror. And then Walter casually drops the bird's name, which is Sheytan Ibn Esenco.
It's a magnificent disruption of the hierarchy. Like, Kid's physical strength suddenly means absolutely nothing.
So Kid eventually unfreezes, runs down to the parking lot, and meets up with Jesse, who, remember, just finished bragging about tossing a man off a balcony.
Right, the tough guy.
Yeah. Kid mentions he got spooked by this parrot named Sheytan Ibn Esenco, and Jesse, the ultimate macho guy, completely breaks down.
Completely loses it.
His hands are shaking, he's sweating profusely, and his tough guy facade evaporates in a second.
Just at the mere mention of the name.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the entire genre of the narrative just snaps in half. Jesse starts frantically explaining the lore of this bird to Kid.
Such a wild pivot.
It is. He claims this parrot is the boss of the dreaded Parrot Mafia, but the details are insane. Jesse says this bird chased Sherlock Holmes through the deadly swamps of Mordor.
Right.
He says the bird drove Hercule Poirot mad with its screams.
Wait, I'm completely lost here. Why is a parrot suddenly talking about Mordor and Hercule Poirot? It feels completely random, and it just takes me out of the gritty mafia vibe. Is the author just throwing in pop culture Mad Libs for a laugh?
It does feel like a joke at first glance, for sure. But consider the structure of the book the story belongs to. The River of Remembrance is deeply concerned with AI architecture.
Oh, right, the AI element. Yeah, so how does an artificial intelligence process human culture? When an AI hallucinates, it matches up entirely unrelated data points, like blending Arthur Conan Doyle's detectives with Tolkien's fantasy landscapes.
Oh, wow. So the lore is operating like a systemic glitch.
Exactly. By having the parrots exist within this pop culture hallucinatory lore, the author is showing us a world being rewritten by a logic entirely outside of human understanding.
That's terrifying, actually.
It is. The absurdity amplifies the horror. Think about Kid and Jesse's operating system. Their entire worldview is based on predictable physical violence. I punch you, you fall down, I drop you off a balcony, you die.
And the result of that crash is incredibly visceral. After Jesse explains this absurd lore, he tries to flee to his car, completely abandoning Kid in the parking lot. But out of the darkness, a butcher knife drops from the sky with terrifying speed and splits Jesse's skull wide open.
It's so sudden.
It is. Kid looks up and sees a spinning, colorful parrot in the dark night sky, laughing demonically. The bird actually taunts him, saying, "We'll get you. You can't escape, but let's play first."
It is structurally humiliating, if you think about it. Notice the specific weapon. Jesse, the boastful macho king of the streets, doesn't get a heroic shootout with a rival game.
No, not at all.
His reign is ended by a kitchen utensil dropped by a brightly colored bird. The humiliation is the point. The grand illusion of his power is shattered just as brutally as his skull.
So Jesse is dead in the parking lot, the parrot flies off, and the human police finally arrive. Kid is arrested and taken to the 13th precinct, and here we get a very revealing look at the so-called hub of human authority.
Physical manifestation of the broken system we talked about earlier.
Right. So we meet Chief Superintendent Rex. He's sitting in this musty, depressing interrogation room, but he is wearing a pristine, incredibly expensive designer suit.
A suit brought entirely with underworld bribes from slumlords like Mr. Scrooge.
Yeah, and standing right behind him is his assistant, Inspector Poirot, who is described as literally looking and acting like a circus clown.
This is surreal.
He's actually doing pantomimes in the background while Rex interrogates Kid. Why a clown? Does that just feed back into the hallucination theme?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the clown is a direct commentary on the circus of human justice. Like, the police are supposed to be the objective arbiters of the law, right? But in this city, they are entirely bought and paid for. The law isn't a moral absolute, it's just a financial transaction.
Sure.
Rex even casually informs Kid that Scrooge has generously asked the police not to accidentally shoot Kid while he's trying to escape.
Meaning Scrooge didn't pay for Kid to be executed, so Rex will keep him alive. It's just business.
It's all business. Human corruption relies entirely on leverage and mutual greed. You pay me, I look the other way. Both sides have to agree to the fiction that money equals safety.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But what happens when a force arrives that doesn't care about money?
Oh, you can't bribe a bird.
You cannot bribe a bird.
Yeah.
And that realization hits the precinct like a freight train. Kid manages to tell Rex that a parrot killed Jesse. And at first, Rex is just annoyed and confused.
Naturally.
But the moment Kid mentions the name Ibn Esenco, the entire atmosphere of the police station drops. The man in the designer suit completely loses his cool. He realizes it was Jack the Knife, the killer parrot from Ripper Street.
I genuinely love the names in this, Jack the Knife, but the panic escalates so fast. A terrified police officer bursts into the interrogation room with breaking reports. He says, hand grenade Kiki and a death squad of killer parrots have just completely razed Mr. Scrooge's heavily fortified estate to the ground.
It's unbelievable chaos.
Scrooge, his bodyguards, his entire family just wiped out in minutes.
And think about what that represents. Scrooge was the apex predator of the human system. He had wealth, fortresses, political leverage, armed guards, all of it. And none of it meant anything against this chaotic force.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, like, okay, this is just a weird, funny story about mafia birds with hand grenades, you really have to look at what it says about the nature of human laws. The story is arguing that our institutions only have power because we all collectively agree to pretend they do.
It's a very fragile social contract. And the avian mob doesn't sign contracts.
Exactly. Which leads to the ultimate threat at the police station. The panicked officer says there is a black messenger bird sitting outside the station and it's giving the police an ultimatum. Hand over Kid immediately or the station gets a visit from Machine Gun Laura.
Machine Gun Laura.
Yeah. And how does the powerful, suited chief superintendent react to this threat from a bird?
Oh, he instantly throws Kid out onto the street. He physically kicks him out the door to save his own skin.
All that institutional protection, the entire facade of law and order, just evaporates the second true, unpredictable danger arrives.
Because the core of human corruption is ultimately self-preservation. When push comes to shove, the corrupt official only cares about himself. The avian mob, however, operates on merciless, uncompromising retribution.
Right.
When those two ideologies collide, the corrupt system doesn't fight back, it surrenders instantly.
So Kid finds himself locked out of the police station, just tossed onto the dark streets. And the narrative takes a major tonal shift here. It moves away from the chaotic action of estates blowing up and turns into a slow, atmospheric, deeply psychological horror. Kid isn't just attacked and killed right away, he is methodically stalked.
He's pursued through these labyrinthine, nightmare-like alleyways, and his pursuer is a massive black cockatoo named Charon.
Named after the ferryman of the dead in Greek mythology. And Sharon doesn't just attack him, the bird just keeps flying ahead, landing on street lamps, and staring at Kid with these pitch-black eyes.
So
it keeps promising him that he's going to Hades. It's relentless. I mean, it's completely terrifying, but it's also so deeply absurd that you can't look away from the page. Kid is being stalked by a talking cockatoo acting like the Grim Reaper.
It breaks his mind.
It really does. The arrogant bravado we saw in the first scene, the guy who sadistically threw a dead woman's jewelry in the trash, he is entirely gone. Kid is reduced to sheer primal panic. He runs until his body simply gives out.
He has nothing left.
Yeah. And eventually, the physical and mental exhaustion takes over, and he collapses in a dingy, littered alleyway that looks like the forgotten edge of the world.
And that alleyway serves as the courtroom for his final judgment.
Sitting right in the middle of this filthy gray alley is a massive golden cage. And perched on it is Sheytan Ibn Esenco, surrounded by countless vassal parrots. I want to highlight the visual design the author uses here. We have this dark, impoverished, noir-style environment, and dropped right into the center of it is an explosion of brilliant, vibrant, tropical plumage.
It's a brilliant visual dissonance. The vibrant colors represent a totally alien natural authority forcibly encroaching on the drab, manufactured reality of human poverty and greed. It's nature reclaiming a corrupted space, but doing so with mobster aesthetics.
And Kid just accepts it. After all the running and the panic, when he finally faces Sheytan, he doesn't fight, he doesn't beg, he just listens as this brightly colored bird speaks to him.
And Sheytan delivers a monologue that is genuinely chilling, precisely because of how insignificant it makes Kid feel.
Oh, yeah?
Sheytan tells him that the law of the street is finally devouring him. But the real psychological blow is when Sheytan informs Kid that he will be forgotten immediately, like he is just an insignificant blip in the Parrot Mafia's reign. Sheytan casually compares executing this low-level human debt collector to the times he historically assassinated JFK and rubbed out the mobster Dutch Schultz.
There's that AI-style hallucinatory lore again.
Exactly. It completely shrinks Kid's entire existence. Kid thought he was a terrifying force in the world because he had a gas pistol and could bully pensioners. But Sheytan operates on a timeline of monumental historical chaos. Kid is nothing.
And then the story delivers this brilliantly absurd cinematic final image. Sheytan decides to give Kid a quick death. He calls in his two elite assassins named Pat and Garrett.
The twin parrots.
Twin parrots in magnificent, colorful plumage. They glide in silently from behind Kid. And what are they holding in their clawed feet?
An old, meticulously maintained single-action revolver.
They literally shoot him execution style with a cowboy gun.
It is the ultimate collision of gritty street justice and surreal fantasy. The story closes with Ibn Esenco cawing triumphantly into the neon-flickering darkness, having successfully imposed absolute bizarre order over human chaos.
So what does this all mean? We started out reading what felt like a bleak, grounded commentary on the housing crisis, systemic poverty, and slumlord greed. And we ended up in an apocalyptic, avian, mob-fever dream where parrots wield butcher knives and revolvers. It's quite the journey.
The bait and switch is masterful, but the underlying insight is what really sticks with you. Human power relies entirely on shared fictions. We only have authority if everyone agrees to play the game. The moment a force arrives that refuses to learn the rules, a force like a brightly colored bird, all of our money, our guns, and our laws vanish into thin air.
It reveals how fragile our reality really is. And I think there is a broader implication here when you consider the multimedia nature of the author's larger project.
How so?
Well, think about the act of parroting itself. A parrot mimics human language without actually understanding the profound meaning behind the words. It just repeats the sounds.
Right.
We humans believe our concepts of justice, economics, and law are universal truths. But what if, in the grand scheme of the universe, our complex legal systems and our declarations of power are just mimicry?
That's fascinating.
If a truly alien, superior intelligence, like an AI architecture, for instance, were to observe us, they might view our most profound laws and societal structures exactly the same way we view the random, meaningless screeching of a bird. Wow. That is a heavy lens to look through. If our entire civilization's concept of authority is just a bunch of noise we've convinced ourselves means something, it makes you wonder what happens when something finally decides to stop listening to the noise. You've been listening to another deep dive. Keep questioning the strange and wonderful narratives around you. Examine the foundations of the rules you follow every day. And remember, the next time you see a brightly colored bird looking at you funny, maybe just leave it alone. We'll catch you next time.